another episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection. Today's guest is Kaela. Kaela is somebody that, has definitely had her bouts with relapses. Even so, going to the point where, she relapsed as a sober living manager while being a live-in sober living manager. And we get into all that. We get into the overdoses and the time saved and, why it's working this time as opposed to the other times. Really has an incredible story, and it was really a pleasure talking to her. So I hope you enjoyed as much as I
Welcome to
did.
the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
So, how much clean time do you have exactly?
I have 8 months and 6 days today.
Is that the most you've ever put together?
Yeah, I had about 9 months back in 2019. I don't know if I actually ever hit 9 months. By that point, I was done. I was already in relapse mode and was done tracking my time. But
Yeah, everyone always says how you always relapse in your head before you actually relapse.
exactly, yeah,
And it's the truth because I mean, let's be real, our problem really wasn't drugs, it was our mind. So as soon
yeah,
as our mind takes us out, the drugs are what follows.
yeah.
So, and when did you start using?
Um, I started drinking and smoking weed when I was 14, freshman year of high school. But it really wasn't bad until I don't know, when I was about 20 years old. I started doing pills and drinking heavily, and Xanax and Oxy became a huge issue. And then I started doing heroin about uh, the beginning of, or no, around October 2018, right before I first went into treatment.
Oh, okay. So, how long were you doing pills before you found heroin?
That would be probably 2 or 3 years, I think.
Okay, that makes. I mean, because I mean, Z- Xanax and drinking heavily means that you're telling me that you blacked out every night.
Oh yeah, that was normal.
Can I take a shot in the dark that you also stole stuff when you took Xanax?
I don't know
Everybody,
what it is about that, but
every single person that I've talked to that got into Xanax, because I'm one of them. I never stole on anything else, but when I was on Xanax, I don't
right.
know what it is. Every single person I've talked to that says, "Yeah, I like Xanax," do you ever steal? Oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. and,
I don't
and
know why, but yeah.
and everyone had, and some people have didn't even have the realization until I brought it up. I'm like, "Did you steal on Xanax?" They're like, "Wait a minute, I only ever stole on Xanax." So yeah, it's one of those things. And I'm sure for me, whenever I was on Xanax, I blacked out. Like that, I
Mhm.
do that, especially when alcohol was involved, which it
Right.
usually was. Let's be real. And you said Oxy, but I have a feeling you mean the Roxys, like the
Yeah.
30s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That and Opana was what got me on heroin.
because OxyContin,
Yeah.
I'm old enough that I sniffed OxyContin back in the mid 2000s. It was 2008 when I got really into all this, and OxyContin was still crushable then. And then by within a couple of years, it was the gel, and then everyone was doing the blues, and
Hmm.
then the blues had a hold of me for a decade. So you know, how did you know you were an addict while you were doing the pills? Did you say to yourself oh yeah, I'm an addict?
Um, I don't think I did until I got a DUI and went to jail. I think before it was oh, I'm just experimenting with drugs and trying to expand my mind. And I had this whole complex of trying to prove that I can go to college and be smart and study and do what I'm supposed to do and still recreationally use drugs. And all fell apart.
So were you escaping something with drugs? How was the childhood?
Yeah, I mean I had a pretty normal childhood. My parents are still together. They're really good people. I wasn't abused by them or anything, but um I was bullied really bad throughout all of grade school, and didn't really have a lot of friends. And I know there was a little bit of trauma that went on in middle school. I have really bad anxiety and depression and like BPD, and I tried to like off myself twice in 7th grade and had to go to a psychiatric unit for it. So I guess like when I started drinking in high school, it like I remember when it like clicked. I didn't realize that it clicked until later on, but like this was that moment. I went to like my first like cool kid party in high school, and everyone was drinking. So I just, started drinking a little bit. I started drinking a little bit more, and I started to like talk to people that I normally wouldn't talk to, and I became like just a very fun, sociable person that people enjoyed being around, and like I never really felt that before. So I'm like, this is it. Like this is I want to feel like this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, what's gonna help me to be so talkative and be so like
Right.
so that everyone wants to be Look, I'm drinking and everyone wants to be friends when I'm drinking,
Yeah.
Kayla.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then what introduced you to pills eventually, though?
I think. Well, I know,
I
like I
said
said,
what, but I probably mean who. Was it
yeah.
somebody?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, it was kind of like a now and then thing to begin with. Like I remember being at one of my close friends' house, and like her dad would just like give us like his whatever opiate pills he had, or like his Xanax or whatever. I don't know if they were actually prescription or if they were just shit that he bought, but like we would just crush them down while we were drinking, and you know, um, and then I started like actually buying Xanax in college because my anxiety was like so bad going to class, and like I didn't really have like a lot of connects back then, just because I didn't like have a lot of friends or like really talk to people. So like I guess that's why it took a while for things to take off.
When they took off, they took off.
When they took off, it took off. Yeah.
So like, because I read somebody like posted something weeks ago, like how much money would you have now if you never did drugs? And but like I always said I answered it and I said it's kind of a mute point because like a lot of the money I made in addiction I would not have made sober. You
Right.
know, I there's a lot of things that like you know we had to do to make money in order to like these are expensive habits.
Yeah.
Like especially like Roxy's. I'm not sure where you at again.
Um, I'm in Tennessee now, but this all was going on in North Carolina.
Okay, I lived in North Carolina in 2015 2016.
Okay.
I was in Durham and like I was a hard drinker. I was at the bars every night, and if I could find coke, I was snorting it. If I could find pills, I was snorting them. If I had a little bit extra money, I would have my pills mailed to me from Jersey, where I'm from.
Mhm.
And that's where all my connections were, and I would just pay somebody extra, Western Union, to like mail me, the pills. And then my next day looked like me sitting outside waiting for the post worker to drop off my pills so that I could get high right away.
Yeah.
Like just insanity. So when you got into like pills, you were like, all right, now I'm an addict, or like,
No, I mean, still then it was like, no, this is just like a recreational thing I do. Like, it's just like drinking on the weekends. And I mean, really, it wasn't, I mean, I don't want to say it wasn't bad because I was snorting pills like every single weekend, but like,
it
it
wasn't every
wasn't,
day yet.
it wasn't every day. I wasn't going to go into withdrawals over anything yet. But I guess, um, like 2017, 2018, like, I dropped out of college and it just got really out of hand. I had so much free time. Like I ended up having to or I got fired from a job because I kept calling out because I wanted to go drink or like do Xanax or do Coke or whatever. And eventually it like ended with me driving home from work one day in like 2018. Or no, drunk. Got off work, went to the bar, took a bunch of Xanax, got drunk, and then somehow got in my car and tried to drive home and crashed it into another car. And I don't remember like a single part of it. Like nobody was hurt, thank God. Like I was completely fine. The other people were completely fine, but I ended up going to jail for the night. My mom picked me up like within like 12 hours thankfully. But that was when I really like realized that it was an issue. And like
And
the guy I
that's
was dating at the time was like, you need to go to AA like now or like it's over. So that was my first AA meeting, was the day after, or the day that I got out of jail.
and so you didn't go to treatment right away. You went to AA.
Right.
And how was your first experience with AA? Were you like going to try it, or were you only doing it to appease them?
It was, I mean, I was open to it, or I thought I was open to it. Um, but like I remember going in there and I thought like I was the exception to the rule. Like, this is great, and I know you guys have to like abstain from alcohol and all mind altering substances for the rest of your life, but I just need to get it under control and then I'll be fine. And I remember like looking at the steps on the wall, like at some point after going, and I'm like, all right, 1, 2, 3, done. I'm on step 4. Like it was just like, oh, okay. Like I never got a sponsor back then. Like I didn't do it.
The right way.
Right.
Yeah. And how long did that like bout of sobriety last?
I got 30 days without alcohol, but I would still do Xanax and cocaine and smoke weed. Um, so I don't know what that means, but but then yeah, that was like April, and then I just I would like hide my drinking and everything from the guy I was dating at the time. I was a real piece of shit for that. Um, and then I started doing hair. Well, I started doing like the Opana and the Roxys more often, and then I realized these are really expensive. Like, and I heard that heroin was cheaper. It's really not that much cheaper.
Not when you have
really...
the tolerance changes so much faster, and then you end up having to buy so much that you're spending more than you would on the pills.
Right. So I found this guy at like work that like one of my friends at work. I knew that he did heroin, so I asked him about it, and he was kind of like hesitant at first, like, I don't think you want to do this, and then eventually gave in. That lasted like maybe like 2 months before I went into rehab for the first time.
What now? How there's 2 months? Because I mean, to go on a run for, I don't want to say only 2 months, but I mean, did anything happen that like you were like, all right, now I got to go to rehab? I mean, this is crazy. Like, because usually people last a lot longer.
Yeah.
So I feel like something happened to where you're like, I really need to go to rehab now.
Well, this was like, I don't know, all the bad things that happened really happened like in the last year when I was like in and out of rehab. But like this time, the guy I was dating, he, found me drinking one day, like just figured it all out. He was going to kick me out of the house. My parents found out that I was doing all this stuff. They didn't know about the heroin at that point, but like my job, like, was just getting so upset with me because I was showing up drunk like every single day, and it was just getting worse and worse. Like they sent me home one day. So everyone that like I cared about at the time was like, you need to go to rehab or like we're done. So okay. And I went, and I mean it lasted, I mean I went from about like 20 days in like a detox residential thing in West Virginia, and then I came back to Charlotte to do like a PHP, IOP and OP thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much time I had before I relapsed, but once I got to the OP level where I was allowed to like go back and live at home and just drive up there like a few times a week, I ended up relapsing like on heroin and alcohol, I think. And yeah, but somehow I was able to like pull myself out of that, and that's when I got like the almost 9 months. But
was there something that like because you said you already had relapsed before you relapsed in that 9 months,
right? Yeah.
Was it like I know you were dating that guy who didn't want, is there something happened like he left and now all of a sudden you're like, well, is that a good guess?
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, we ended up breaking up, and I moved out of the house, and you know, like during this, I don't know how, I mean, I know the only reason I had that clean time was because I had someone hovering over me, making sure that I stayed sober. I wasn't working a program. I didn't have a sponsor. Like, I went to meetings every now and then, but like, I wasn't doing anything to actually help myself stay sober. So as soon as like that little bit of accountability was gone, I was like, well, now I'm free and I can drink again and I'll be fine because I have all this, you know, I had all this time, like, oh my god. And
How? Because like I remember there was a girl that I kept telling in rehab, like, if you drink again, you're gonna do heroin again. And she was like, no, I'm not alcoholic. I was just an addict. And then
yeah.
I was like, okay, but I'm just saying, like, if you drink, eventually you're gonna do dope again. And then when she drank again, within 4 hours, she was shooting up. So I'm curious, how long did it take after you started drinking to where you were like, this isn't working, but I know what'll work?
Maybe a month. I don't even know. It was like 2-3 weeks, maybe.
And did you have like a certain person that you would just like hit up, like, hey, I'm back?
Not exactly. It was kind of like a new person that came into my life around that time. I started hanging out with, and they just kind of like brought it up and suggested it one day that we were hanging out, and like I was kind of like hesitant at first. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. Like, I had all this time, I'll be good this time. And it just, I mean, it did not take long.
And you said that year was your roughest?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about like what made it rough?
Yeah, so I think so yeah, I was hanging out with this person and we started doing heroin together. Yeah, so I ended up so I was living with my parents at this point because I moved out of place with my ex, and I was drinking and doing heroin and going out, and they kind of were catching on like that I wasn't sober and I really wasn't doing okay, and that just made me so angry that they like were trying to like give me a curfew and like all this stuff to save my life. Like, it's just the audacity. And so I ended up like getting my own apartment. Like, I got this shitty little studio on a bad road in Charlotte, and this guy moved in with me, and you know, I mean, I still have my job, like I still had money in my bank account, like things weren't that bad, but I don't know, like what, I mean, I had never really experienced dope sickness until this time around. And when it came to the point where like I was running out of money because I quit my job and all this, like it was like a traumatic experience, like being in this apartment with this person, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, being dope sick will like drive you. You know what I mean? Like, you are motivated by how sick you are. It's the opposite of when you're like sick for real, because then you can't do anything. But when you're dope sick, like you can't do anything, but you will do anything. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Like, I was driving 2 hours each way to score, you know, just because I knew that it was the fastest way for me to get high is to drive 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy to think, but I just didn't know anybody else. So I would just, all right, well, I can just sit here and be sick, or I can just get in my car and be sick while I'm driving for 2 hours. Then I'll be good.
Right.
And, you know, and there's so many, like, at one point, like, I even embezzled 10 grand from my own company that I worked at with my dad, that my dad owned. Like, you know, it didn't matter. I was going to do anything and everything I could.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah.
So and it's people, places, and things, right? So you were with this guy, or you keep saying person.
Guy, yeah.
Okay, a guy, okay. I don't know, like, you know, it could be they, them, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's progressive for a heroin addict. So, all right, so you're with this dude, and obviously he's not the best influence.
No. Not that, like, I blame him for,
no.
like, you know, because I made my own choices, but, like, I mean, we're two heroin addicts who like, if even like we tried to get clean so many times, like on our own without going anywhere, like, but then the second that one of us is like, I'm so sick, you know, we're in the car on the way. And it's like, I know I did this and I know he did this. Like, it was like we would exaggerate how sick we were. Like, we'd be fine and be like, I don't know how many, like day 3 maybe. And like, for some reason, like, I actually feel okay. But my brain's like, I would really love to get high right now. So I'm like, all like, oh, I'm so sick, dude. Like and it was just, I mean, I know I like had a few overdoses in that apartment. Nothing so serious that like EMTs had to be called or anything, but like, I know there's like video footage that he has of me like after he's like had to throw me in the shower and like pour like cold water on me and like on my chest and just like just awful shit.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you guys had Narcan, but then again, they weren't really giving out Narcan for free back then as much as they are now.
Yeah.
So, because now people are more promoting like harm reduction, like don't use alone and make sure you use with somebody else, and here's some free Narcan and take. Yeah. Like we have Narcan here that we give out to people, because we'd rather like one guy that comes here, he's already overdosed, you know, but he keeps on coming to meetings, but so we gave him Narcan to take home with him just in case.
Yeah.
So because like obviously he's still getting high, so I want him to have a chance, you know. But you said you weren't working though. Were you selling?
No, we were just living off of my savings account. And like, well, I had like a like Adderall script that I didn't use, so I started filling that just to like get a little extra something. I ended up, well, at this point, I mean, we like literally what happened was like I ran out of money and I was the one paying for everything. Like, he didn't have a job, he didn't I mean, I paid for all the drugs, I paid for the rent, I paid for everything.
Aren't you nice? Aren't you so nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, we call that a sponge. Yeah, like, literally, like, you know, like, no, was he older than you? I envisioned him, like, being, like, a decade older than you.
No, like 2 years.
Okay, he was older, though.
Yeah.
Usually, it's always, like, I don't know why, but I always see it where it's, like, the guy is, like, much older, and yet he needs the girl to do everything for him. And, you know, pay the bills, have the place in their name, make sure they go find it, like, you know, it never made sense. Did you know him just from using it, or did you know him from, like, back in the day?
I didn't really know him. I mean, I met him, we met, like, the guy that I started doing heroin with, we met at his funeral, the year before. And then we really didn't talk or anything, like just like a little bit on like Instagram or something. And then one of my mutual friends who I started drinking with once I moved out of my house, kind of like introduced us more formally, and like it was just like, just from that point on, I was just off.
Did you get arrested with him at all?
No, the DUI was my only arrest.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah.
but you had a bunch of hospital visits.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that, but you never had the paramedics come. You just went to the hospital.
I had the paramedics have to come twice. One time was, so like after I ran out of money and everything, like I decided to go to like rehab because I literally had like, I didn't have any, like I was being evicted, like I had nothing. I had a car and that was it. So I decided to go to rehab after like everyone like begging me, like rehab's calling me because my parents are bothering them, like just begging me to come in. Did that, moved into sober living after that, was doing okay for like 2 days. And then the third day I started drinking again. And then pretty much like right after that started doing heroin again. And with the same person. And then within like maybe a month or two, maybe, I decided to go back to rehab because I was like gonna get kicked out of the house. And I was like, I was hanging out with this guy, so we were basically like homeless, just like running around the city. Like now and then we could like get a hotel or something to sleep in, and like we just kept running out of money. And he ends up going into detox the day before me. They only had one bed, and he walked through the door first. So I'm just like walking around Charlotte, and I'm sick. So I call my dealer, and I like get like the last like $10 in my account to get an Uber over there. Get that, and I'm just like walking around with it. And eventually, like, my dad is like, all right, I'll come pick you up and I'll drive you to the hotel to stay for the night. Like, and you're going to go to detox in the morning. I'm like, okay. And he picks me up, and like, I would never, like, I was fully planning on like waiting to do it until I got back to the hotel. But like, for some reason, and I think this was like God, honestly, as like weird as it sounds, like, I decided to like pretend I was car sick and like get in the back seat of the car so I could like do a shot. And next thing I know, I'm like waking up on the ground outside of some gas station with like EMTs surrounding me. And I'd overdosed in the back of my dad's car. And they had never seen me like that, like ever. And yeah, they took me to the hospital. And like I just like I would have died in that hotel room if I didn't do that then. Like that would have been it.
Yeah.
No one was gonna stay with me. Like
Yeah.
So
You would have been using the loan against,
Right. And what I thought was like not that much. Like it was just going to be a little bit to like keep me from, feeling like shit on the way there. But
I guess there's fentanyl in there.
yeah.
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 I mean, it doesn't matter how much at that point, that's why I'm afraid to even relapse at this point.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where it is. You don't know where it is. I heard even, I know it's even in meth nowadays. Like, and obviously mine was the Roxy's, and they're pressing them all the time with those.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I have no desire. I mean, I've been through the steps, and I was lifted of that obsession when I went through the steps. That's for damn sure. And I know that they're not going to help me and help my problems anymore. So it's just one of those things in my mind's like, that was my 20s. I got sober at 31. So I consider, well, that was my 20s. Those are all my lessons I need to learn for the rest of my life, because like I can't go back and change anything. At the same time, like I feel like anything I did in addiction, I had to do at that moment in order to be like survive. I was in full survival mode.
Yeah.
And so these are all just life lessons that that I had to learn that I didn't want to have to learn. And when is that when you got sober or no?
No. That so I went from the hospital to detox, and from detox to back to the same rehab that I had been to in North Carolina 2 previous times. I stayed there for like, I don't know, something like 45, 50 days. And I felt so good this time. It's like, this time is different. But I get out, I go to like the same sober living house, and I'm doing good. I'm doing IOP and going to meetings, but like I'm still not working a program. I don't have a sponsor. Like I'm just like still like a dry drunk. Like I'm not doing anything to actually fix the problem. I'm just sober now. Or like I'm just not,
You're
not
abstinent.
drunk. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so all the problems that I was trying to mask with the drugs and the alcohol, like they're all right in front of my face. But I ended up getting I had this 2 days shy of 5 months at this point. I think I relapsed in October of last year. Started hanging out with the same person again. And we were hanging out for maybe a month before I relapsed, and he was telling me that he was sober, and then it just got to the point where he's nodding out in front of me, he's scratching the shit out of himself, and I'm like, you're not, just tell me, this is just insulting for you to sit here and tell me that you're clean right now. And eventually he told me, and then eventually I had a bad day, and I'm like, hey, let's go get high. And I started faking my drug test. I went to the greatest lengths to make sure like I peed clean. Like the most stressful experience.
It is.
Not worth it. Like
I only ever brought in somebody else's pee because I never wanted to have that kind of stress of not knowing if it's going to work or not, you know,
Well,
like.
I knew that mine was gonna, like, it was it was clean pee. It was just like the process of like getting it into the cup with someone standing right in front of you was just like I'm my hands over here sitting on the counter like shaking. And I'm like, I'll just like, if I like, I mean, I never plan on relapsing or going back out, but like if I ever do, like I'm just gonna pack my bags. I'm not gonna go through that again. But yeah, so I'm getting away with it for like a few weeks somehow. They end up making me like house manager of this place while I'm getting high. I felt terrible. That only lasted like a week though before there was one night I was with the guy and we did like Xanax. The Xanax was pressed with fentanyl and we were drinking and I blacked out. I lost my phone and I didn't come home and I had like a 11 o'clock curfew. So we wake up and I'm like kind of freaking out because I don't have a phone and I have a curfew and I'm like thinking like, just wondering what they must be thinking. And of course we're like feeling sick and don't have any money. And I'm like, well, I've got to, the one thing I promised myself I would never pawn was my MacBook. But I'm like, hey, I have a MacBook back at the house. So we get in my car and we drive over there and the assistant house manager is standing at the door and she's like, I'm really sorry. I talked to the lady that like oversees like the whole company. She says like, you gotta pack your stuff and leave like right now. She's like, I'm sorry I tried to talk to her, but like you gotta go. So I'm like pissed off, like going in there, like grabbing all my shit, throwing it in the car. She's like begging me, like just like go back to treatment, like just go back through the whole thing, like we'll hold your spot. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm fine. I'm not doing anything. Like I don't know why you would kick me out. Just like so upset.
As you were coming back there to pawn your MacBook, like I don't know why.
Yeah, like,
the nerve
the whole
of
reason
you.
I showed up was to grab my MacBook. Just
To sell it for drugs.
Right.
But I don't know why they're kicking me out.
Yeah.
What a bunch of assholes. They're just,
like I was just so
no empathy.
offended all the time. It was like I was such a miserable person. Like, but yeah, and we sold the MacBook. They gave me like I don't even know. I think they gave me like $150, $180 for it. It was like a $2,000 MacBook.
Yep.
I got like nothing, but it was enough for the time being. I'm trying to remember exactly like what led up to me going back to treatment this last time.
Well, it sounds like it was right around Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, like you would, if you're coming up on eight months or whatever, then you came into rehab around the New Year's. So, what happened around Christmas of last year?
So after I got okay. Sorry, there's like a lot going through my head.
No, I get it. Like
so after I was kicked out of there, I just started staying with my boyfriend at the time and in his one room in his friend's house that he lived in, and that lasted for like a couple weeks I think, and until the day that we went to some guy's house to like hang out, did a bunch of like fentanyl pressed bars, were like pretty much blacked out, and I really don't have much memory of this. Like you can see like images from it, but like I don't. Yeah. But like from what I know, like we woke up in the morning, drove to Charlotte to pick up, and I guess I was driving the car back, and I like knocked the mirror off the passenger side, and I guess he was like, "You need to pull over. You can't drive. Like you're not okay." I'm like, "Okay." So I guess I pulled over, and he got in the driver's seat, and we ended up, I guess he nodded out at the wheel, but we ended up rear-ending a semi-truck on the highway. Both completely fine, like they took me to the hospital. They took him to the hospital, but I might have had like a scratch on my arm or something. Like, I don't know how that happened, but he ended up going to jail for it, which I feel terrible about. But like, also, I had a breathalyzer on my car and like a restricted license. If I would have had that charge on top of that, I don't even know if I'd ever get my license back.
Yeah.
So, everything happens for a reason, but.
It really does.
Yeah.
And he probably needed the dry out anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. Like, so that, I'm sure, how were your parents taking this accident?
Well, they found out because they had put a tracking device on my car. And they were looking at it and then saw that it was just stopped in the middle of the highway. And they started calling highway patrol, asking it like there was an accident, and they confirmed there was, and they're like, oh my God, like, is she in jail? And they're like, no, she's in the hospital. Like, there's no charges against her. And she knew immediately who I was with and what happened and what was going on. So she comes and picks me up from the hospital, takes me back to their house. And I remember, like, I woke up in, like, my bed, like, that was my bed at their house. And I, like, for a split second thought it was all, like, a really bad dream. And realized that it wasn't. And I, like, ran in my mom's room, like, basically just crying, like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's going on, like I have nothing to say, like, this is just.
Do you have siblings?
No, it's just me.
Just you. Okay. No, just curious, because like I have a brother and sister that are very normal and know how to drink normally and know when to stop and all that, like, stuff that I have no idea how to do.
Yeah.
So, and my parents are still together, you know what I mean? They've been together 36 years. So, like, it's nothing of my childhood. It was more like me rebelling and me just wanting to find my own way.
Right.
So, I mean, I can totally see, like, you being confused even more, especially being an only child. You're talking about being depressed. Like, you don't have that interaction at home with, like, somebody close to your age, like a sibling. So, like, I can see you isolating easily and, like you did.
Yeah.
So, but also I can see your parents being okay with giving you a lot of chances since you're their only kid.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me too. Like, so is that when you finally decided, like, all right, I guess we're going to go do this again?
Yeah. I mean, I just.
Did you go to the same rehab again?
No, this time I came to Tennessee. My mom's therapist actually found this place in Tennessee called Cumberland Heights. It's like very highly rated, and at first I was like, I am not going to fucking Tennessee. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'll find a place, like, I don't know why I was just so like, I'm not going to Tennessee, but
yeah, it's not like you ever had a bad experience in Tennessee.
No, I've never. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Let's go to like Florida or I don't know.
I did it in Los Angeles, and it was amazing. Actually, when you said you had relapsed in April 2018 for one of your relapses. That's when I got sober. Was April 25th, 2018 is my recovery date.
Okay.
And that's when I flew out to LA, and from Philly.
Yeah.
So like I went like across the country to get. It was my only time in rehab though. And it was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. But I also was refusing Suboxone too in there, because I knew if I took the Suboxone, I would end up being, there was, I understand the maintenance programs, and I support the maintenance programs because a lot of people need them. But I feel like if you can get away with it without it, then don't.
Absolutely.
Because then you're going to be in rehab for them.
Yeah.
Or having to taper them or come off. And from what I've heard, methadone and Suboxone are much even harder to come off of than dope or pills.
Yeah, Suboxone sucks.
Yeah, I saw a girl in rehab who was there for Suboxone because she was in rehab the year before for heroin. And then she had to go back to rehab to get off the Suboxone.
Yeah.
So, like, so what's different this time around besides the Tennessee? It sounds like you're working a program this time because you keep on saying the key words. I didn't have a sponsor, and these are all things that, like, that you need to do to stay sober, right?
Yeah. Well, like, the biggest thing I think was just, like, getting away from North Carolina and all the people. Like, I mean, I know like wherever you go, there you are. Like that's not, just like geographical change, like isn't the only thing, but like for me, it definitely helped a lot. Um, I didn't feel like I had like all this responsibility with like to take care of other people anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, just honestly, like the rehab I went to was just so much better than the other one. I mean, I loved like the staff at the one in Charlotte, but like Cumberland Heights was just amazing. I mean, it was like focusing, like you focused on like step work. Like they took you through like step 1 through 5, like in like a practice pamphlet.
So it was actually a rehab that actually did the 12 steps, because only some do that, and it's so important, the ones that do, because it can be so helpful if done right, and actually like with like you want to do them, and when you're actually putting the effort into them, it's amazing how well they work. The steps.
Yeah.
Like, are you still working on them?
Yeah, I'm still on step 4.
Yeah.
Right
Take your time.
Yeah, exactly.
How's your list coming along?
It's lengthy.
Is it honest? It's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like you have more against yourself than anybody else. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, like hard for me to actually, like, anytime I'm trying to write these resentments and be like I feel like most people do it, like it's all this person's fault and now I have to find my, like, no, I know my part in all of this. Like I'm trying to like find a person where like I truly think that they did me wrong and like I had no part.
Good luck.
Single person.
Yeah, good luck. Do you watch Friends at all?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a big Friends fanatic, and I always think back to the episode when Phoebe hates PBS, and she tries to prove to Joey that there is such thing as a selfishly unselfish good deed, and then she like donates money to PBS because she hates PBS, but she wanted Joey to get on TV, and then she got excited when she saw Joey on TV, and then she's like, damn it, like, it's the same idea. Yeah. But it really is. Like, that's how I always think of it. And it's the truth, though, because there is no, like, you can be selfish, but not self-serving, because there's a difference, like, between self-serving and selfish, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's okay that you want to do things that make you feel good, but maybe have somebody else feel good in there, too.
Right.
Because that is possible.
Yeah. No,
like, just doing this makes me feel good.
Yeah. I feel like it teaches you how the right ways to be selfish and the wrong ways to be selfless. You know what I mean?
No, I know. Yeah, like I had a problem with character defects when you get to 6. I had a problem with manipulation. We're good manipulators, addicts. It's just like trade. It's just standard trade. Yeah. And I did not want to drop that because I was a salesman too. Like in like my jobs, I was always in sales.
Yeah. And,
they were like my sponsor and then my therapist, because I was talking to everybody about, that's the big thing too, is talk to everybody that you can talk to, like whether it's a sponsor or a therapist or a peer counselor, talk to people, because you're going to get a lot of different opinions and draw from a lot of different things that you can use. And finally someone said to me, I forget which one, they were like, listen, you can be manipulative as long as you're not self-serving. As long as when you're manipulating somebody, it's to help them and not help you. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I think I can do that. So, and you can, and there are ways that you can, not manipulate people, but just like, it's more, leading a horse to water. Mm-hmm. That's what you do when you're manipulating somebody else for their own benefit. And you'll find even more as you get more time and you like want to help others, is that you want to make sure that you're not telling them, go get help, go get help, go get help. It's more like, I'm here when you need me.
Right.
Whenever you're ready kind of thing. And then we're really going to be able to get into it, because if you don't want to be here, this is not going to work.
Exactly.
Like, and what are your plans, like, for how long you're going to be there for? Because you've been there for 8 months now.
Yeah. So as soon as I got out of Cumberland Heights, I came to like a sober living, and it's a minimum of 6 months, but you could stay as long as a year. So I'm gonna stay a full year. So I'll leave here end of January. I'm already like trying to look at apartments, which is just like, it's just crazy for me. Um, to like, I mean, I don't know, just to, it's like so many good things are happening in my life right now, and it just blows my mind.
Like what?
Like, I just got a car. I spent like 6 months here without a car, which, I mean, I figured it out. Like, it was fine. I still got to work. And like, now I have a car that I love. It's old, but I love it. And like, I have all my court stuff from like the DUI. Like, I was still dealing with that. And it's all paid for. I just got my license back last month. I had to go like a year without that. I'm about to get like a promotion at my job, which, I mean, it's like I have, but like it's the promotion.
No, yeah.
And I just started school last month out of Beta. I'm trying to get my esthetician license, and I'm just like, it's so much fun. Like, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I feel so good about it. And
So you're basically enjoying life basically for the first time.
Like a normal life.
How old are you?
25.
25. Yeah, and you have like so much time to like get it right now, you know, because like, and you know, like I said, I'm 31 and I figured it out. By the time I'll be 35 in September. Well, holy shit, it is September. I'll be 35 at the end of the month. And you know, but you figure it out when you figure it out. But the whole point is though, like, as long as you're being honest about it and putting the work in, which it sounds like you are, and like you have a sponsor now. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And you talk to them, and you see. How often do you go to meetings?
At least 4 a week.
And you're an AA or an NA?
I do both.
You do both. Which one do you like prefer? Are you going through the steps?
I work. I mean, I do AA with my sponsor just because she's AA, but I don't know. I love them both. Like, around, or at least the ones that I've been to here, or like the ones I frequent, like, they're not as, you know, you go into an AA meeting and like you talk about, you even bring up like the possibility that you ever touch drugs, and they get like so upset. Like, it's not, the ones I go through around here are not like that. They're all like very, you know, if I feel like I'm in the same type of meeting no matter which meeting I go to. Out of the
That's good. How long were you the sober living manager getting away with it?
Oh, like a week.
Oh, okay.
Not long.
You wore it on your face, or?
Well, that was, I mean, it lasted until like I got kicked out.
That's true. Well, yeah, I guess because you ran out of money, like you said, and that's why you were going to sell your MacBook. Yes. And again, you weren't working. Did you not want to work a program? Did you think you didn't need it?
It wasn't that. It was like, see, there was like one point, at some point when I was like sober, I tried to work the steps by myself. I like got the workbook out and I started like writing everything, and like then I'm just looking at a piece of paper with like all of this terrible shit that I've done, and it's like I have nobody to like let it out to. Like, do not recommend that at all.
It's kind of hard to do steps by yourself when 5 you're supposed to talk about 4 to somebody else.
Right. But I just like, I like always, I mean, I guess like I wanted a sponsor, but like my anxiety is so bad, especially when I'm sober. So like when I go to a meeting, like I didn't feel like I was a part of like any sort of fellowship when I was there before. Like, you know, I mean, it's my fault for like just looking like this little like hermit crab in the corner and like not trying to approach people at the meetings. But like, you know, I just go in, sit down, and I like run out before anyone would talk to me.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
You know, I was too like scared to like ask a woman to like help me.
And how do you feel about your anxiety now this time around, like in sobriety? Because like that doesn't go away, obviously.
Right. It's, I mean, but it's, I'm able to do things now that like, I mean, I couldn't imagine doing back then. But it's like, I mean, super simple tasks like at a serving job. Like I did that in the past, and I couldn't do it unless I was drunk or on Xanax or something, because like I'm just like terrified of people. And like, I mean, I would show up to work drunk every single day because I was just so terrified. And like now it's just like I just do it, like, and I'm fine. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't like get nervous sometimes, or if like someone's upset, like it doesn't, you know, freak me out like a little bit, but it's like, I don't know. It's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be before.
I feel like I always say that, everyone always goes to the gym, right? Because people are vain and people will see your progress on your body when you go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But going to meetings and working the steps and working on yourself, that's our gym. And the more you get through your own anxiety, every time you have like anxiety attacks and you still sit through it, like I always say to people here, like sit in the shit. You got to sit in it. And the more you sit in it, the easier it'll be next time you have to sit in it, because you will have to sit in it again.
Yeah.
It's not going away. It's going to come back again, but you'll get stronger each time. You'll gain more confidence each time. It'll get easier each time. So, like, I feel like it's almost repetition and just like, all right, I got through the first one. All right, let's do it again. That's day 2 of work.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were nervous going back to work, right? Like in a whole new place now.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, job interviews terrify me. I don't think I've done one job interview sober in my entire life, because just people, and like they're gonna be asking me questions and I don't have an answer like written down on a piece of paper to just give them, But somehow I just like skipped the interview for this job because like it was like a girl at the house got me the job, so like I just went right in, and like I was terrified. I mean, for a while I'm like just standing there following her around like I'm so scared to do this by myself. Like I'm about to, like, tomorrow I'm gonna have to work the floor by myself, talk to these people, like I don't know what I'm doing. And now it's like, I'm about to be like shift supervisor of the place.
Yeah, and look at you now. You've been on here for an hour telling your story
Yeah.
to a complete stranger.
Yeah.
For a podcast, for tens of people, because I don't have a lot of viewers yet. No, I'm just, and who knows how many will end up seeing it. But like, even if you help one person, that's the thing, is when we tell our story, like I only try to like think about, I just want to connect with one person each time, and if one person gets something from it, then I just did my job.
Yeah.
Because everyone feels so lost. Everyone does feel alone. Everyone does have anxiety about it too. That's, a lot of us addicts are empaths, and we feel really, really hard. And then we don't understand. And then when we don't understand, we have to just numb, because we are so upset that nobody understands what's going on in our head.
Yeah.
And nobody cares like we care. You know what I mean? And then we take it out on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like self-harm. And like self-harm isn't just cutting. Self-harm is being like, I can't do this anymore. Fuck it. I know where it's going to take me, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how all my like times that like I had quit for a little bit of time here and there and like put some time together, it was never from working a program. It was never. And then once I finally was just like, all right, I'm done. Like I've surrendered. Like literally I surrender, like white flag. What do I need to do? Like that was my rock bottom. And I honestly feel like that's everybody's rock bottom. Like your rock bottom wasn't overdosing in your dad's car. Your rock bottom was when you finally surrendered and say, hey, can I get a sponsor? Because I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
Like that's I firmly believe is all of our rock bottoms. You're low, maybe one of your biggest lows might have been like that, overdosing and hospital visits and car accidents. But really, because that's your rock bottom. And then you start clawing your way up again. You start working on yourself. You start feeling better again. You start realizing, oh, I'm not such a piece of shit like I thought I was. Yeah. Because like that's definitely a lie I told myself all the time, was how horrible of a person I was.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was easy to, because everyone else didn't like me anyway. And I'm sure I didn't feel alone. And that's why we isolate when we got high, is because nobody's going to understand anyway.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad that you're finally, like, not saying getting it, but, like, you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That, you're working on it. This is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, you're never done working on it. I mean, 3 years later, I can tell you, you're never done working on it.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to be, because then you wouldn't be learning anything anymore. You just be existing.
Right.
So, like, I'm so glad that you're, like, getting out of your shell, and just like, all right, let's do it. Let's talk. let's do this, because like it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on, and especially short notice. Like we talked this morning, you're like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So
I appreciate you asking me.
yeah, I read some of your story. I'm like, I definitely want to hear more from her. Like, you know, and I'm glad you're working on it. I'm glad you're working the steps now. Like, that's amazing, and it's definitely going to like pay off huge for you. And you know, you're coming up on 9 months. But if you need anything, you know, reach out. Either way, that's our page, and what we do for the meeting center. We answer and help people, whoever messages. Like, we're not just for the people in this area. Like, the podcast is broadcasted everywhere, so anybody that reaches out, I'm going to want to try to help.
Okay.
So, yeah, don't feel shy. I mean, I know that how it is when we relapse in our head, we already done. But still, maybe reach out next time and talk to somebody and realize, okay, this isn't that bad. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll get through this. And then I don't want to start this all over again. I want to do this right.
Right.
You know, and especially because you might not have another one in you. You know, that's the thing. How many relapses do we have in us?
I feel like I've exhausted all of my.
You know, how many overdoses do you have? How many lives can, you know, so like, you know, it's definitely, especially with fentanyl's getting worse and worse, you know, I don't trust it. And then again, I'm never safe. None of us are.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we keep on talking about it and being open and transparent about it, that's what's like really important and going to help you have longevity in this. So thank you again, Kaela. I appreciate you taking the time. Have a good night. I know you got some chores to do. I know how sober living works.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know when this is going up. It'll sometime midweek.
All right.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.